Hey everyone, it's Fox from emodels.co.uk here, and welcome to... hang on. 1, 2, 3, back in the room.
Hey everyone, it's Fox from emodels.co.uk here, back with part 2 of our Ammo for MiG Advanced Weathering Guide. Or, if you're joining me on my channel, part 10 of the build of the Bandai Mega Size RX-70A2 Gundam. So, right, where did we leave off last time? Last time we did some chipping and stuff. It's all been done now. Today we are going to focus on some really subtle weathering now. And it's so subtle you probably won't even see it on screen. I always say that and it usually ends up coming out. Today we're going to start off, I don't know how long this is going to take, so I don't know exactly what's going to be in this episode right now. I don't plan these things, you know. So we're going to start initially with streaking. And we are going to use 3 products from the Ammo for MiG range. We're going to use 3 of their streaking grimes. We're going to use streaking grime for DAC, which is MiG 1201. It's kind of a greeny colour. Streaking grime, which is a MiG 1203. It's their kind of standard streaking grime colour. It's more of a reddy browny colour. And lastly, engine grime, a MiG 1407, which is good for metallic colours, but just a very good streaking-y colour anyway. Now these are delightfully simple to use if you can get them in shot. Like the other products, they're enamel based. And if you've ever seen any of my videos where I've done streaking with oil paints, it's pretty much similar technique. We're just going to put this on, give it a few minutes, and streak it off, and it's dead easy. Now the effects are really, really subtle. I have started on this leg here. A little while ago I added some of the streaking grime for DAC, and you can see it here. It's just the most subtle of subtle tints. See on the other leg, you might see a bit of a difference. I also did it on the other side. See it there. And I did some on this part of the knee joint, just this little lip here. It's super subtle, so it's entirely possible that everything we do today may not come out on film. You might not even see what I'm doing, so apologies if that's the case. Right, so what we're going to do first, we're going to start off with the streaking grime for DAC, MiG 1201. And we're going to do this in a few places here and there. Then we're going to go in with the streaking grime. And then last of all, we're going to go in with the engine grime for some real dark tones and tints. So let me just go and get ready, and we'll start with the streaking grime for DAC. Okie dokie, right, let's get going with this. What are we going to need? Well, we're going to need our streaking grime for DAC, OBVs. We're going to need a couple of brushes, a round tip brush, any brush will do, as long as it's soft, any brush will do, medium size, and a bit of an old scruffy fluffy one. This is going to be for the streaking, this is for putting the streaking grime on, but this one is for actually doing the streaking, so it needs to be soft and a bit fluffy around the edge is fine, because I want to kind of fade the colours a bit, so that's kind of perfect. Got a small amount of enamel thinner. In this case it's AK's odorless thinner for enamel products. I've also got a small amount of Artist's thinner for oils, odorless thinners for oils. The reason I've got that is because I've only got a little bit, I've only got like half a jar of this left, and I've only been using it a few days. So I'm going through that, and I don't want to get any more just yet. And I've got gallons and gallons of the odorless thinner from oils that I got from a local art store. So I could be wrong. I think you might be able to use odorless thinners for oils with enamels, because it's kind of a replacement for turpentine, so it might actually work. I need to try and figure that out and do an experiment. I don't know for sure, but I'm sure it'd probably work. So if I do run out of the AK stuff, I can use my other stuff. What else do we have? Piece of tissue. La la la. Not blue this time, so hopefully it won't kill the white balance. So what are we going to do? We're going to get our streaking grime for DAC, give it a little bit of shake. And this is not complicated at all. I don't need to have that in shot really, but right, as you can see, it's a kind of funky green colour. And this is dead easy. I'm going to vary where I put these streaks and these different colours. I'm obviously just going to do the leg in here. I'm not going to show you me doing the whole model. I'm going to put the streaking grime for DAC into a few places. Then I'm going to use the actual streaking grime over more places. So streaking grime for DAC I might use, say, here and here, like I did in the other leg. And the streaking grime itself I might put around panel lines and things, so I'll kind of play with it. I'm going to try and keep it a little bit random, but I'm going to use more of the streaking grime than the streaking grime for DAC. And by the end of this video, I'm going to be so sick of saying streaking grime, and you're probably going to be sick of me saying it. Right, so what we need to do, get our not fluffy brush, get some streaking grime on the brush. Don't need a lot, just a little bit. Dead simple. Ready? I'm going to go like this, and just paint a line on. Go all the way around there. Okay. I need to mention, by the way, when you last saw this model, it had a gloss varnish on it. When I finished all the paint chipping and everything else, I went over it with Humbrol 49 matte, but not heavily, so it's now got more of a sort of matte or satin feel to it. That's important to do because some of the products we're going to use later, like the filters, need a matte or a satin surface. So you only really want the gloss surface for things like panel line washes, pin washes, things like that, where you need the paint to flow. From now onwards, I think I'm just going to stick to these matte and satin finishes. Now, reading up on these products, theoretically I shouldn't have to varnish this again now until the very end, and even then I shouldn't need to varnish it because it should end up with a pretty matte surface. I have heard that if you put these streaking grimes on and then go over with a matte varnish, it can make them disappear a little bit, just because I don't know why. I don't know the chemistry of it, but we'll see. I could be wrong. Now, that's the streaking grime on. Actually, no, let me put a couple of other bits on for you. I'm getting sidetracked there with my waffling. It's bad when I distract myself. I'm going to put a bit here. Splooge. Again, I'm not being careful. I'm not going with a fully loaded brush. I'm not trying to put a layer of paint on here. You'll see it's kind of translucent. It's not solid. There. Where else? I'll do a little bit here, I think. I'm not looking for a riot of colour here, and I've no idea where that phrase just came into my mind. Clean that brush off in my odorless Turpenoid. Right, so that's that. So now you've basically got a sort of mucky green line on your piece. What's next? We need to leave that for a couple of minutes, just to dry a little bit, and then we need to do the streaking part. So let me give that a couple of minutes to dry. I was going to do a really humorous bit here, actually, where I sat here for 2 or 3 minutes and played Persona 4 Golden on my PSP just to distract myself, but I think I lent my PSP to my mate Busby, and I think so I can't do that joke. So it would have been hilarious. You would have loved it. But oh well, it's the price we pay for comedy. So I'll leave this for a couple of minutes, and when we come back, we shall do the streakings. Okay, right, this has had a couple of minutes to dry. So now we're going to do the other simple bit. We're going to get a little bit of thinner on the fluffy brush and dab a bit of it off on the tissue. Don't want it soaked, just want it damp. So dab some of that off on the tissue. And all we're going to do is quite simply knock the camera. Duh! Quite simply, go ahead, and I'm just going to very gently, almost no pressure, start pulling that down from the paint. And what you should see is it starts to streak a little bit. Now I'm almost putting no pressure on this because I don't want to get rid of it, and I don't want it to be too much of an obvious streak. I'm just going to get some more of that thinner off. And because it's now reactivated a little bit, I can just wick away at it and fade it ever so slightly. I can get rid of some of that. You probably can't see it anymore. It's really, really subtle. And if you take off too much, don't worry, you can go back and do some more. Do as much as little as you like. And really all I'm doing is, first of all, is just pulling the paint down and then fading in a bit more. And it's okay to leave little patches here and there because it's supposed to look fairly random. So I've got little patches there, I might leave those. And I'm also following the direction of streaks or gravity, as it were. The idea here is that streaks are going down, fluid is running down, liquid, it's like rain or grime. The idea is that maybe it's rain that's run down the leg and it's picked up some gunk from under here and drawn it down the leg, and that's what I'm trying to kind of create. You see there, you've got a nice sort of dark band there. I took a little bit too much off here and it's a bit weak, so I may have to apply some more there. Beauty of enamels. They take a while to dry, so you can play with them. Now it's not as obvious on this grey part, because obviously it's a grey part, but it's still there. And as with most things when you do model making, a lot of the time you're putting your time into things that nobody will either know is there or will never even see. But it's your call. You'll know it's there. So it's your call whether you want to go to all the effort. I personally always do if I can. Even though somebody might never see it. Say I'm building a Gunpla for someone as a commission, and I want to, I'm painting the pilot. They'll probably never open the cockpit. You can't see inside the cockpits. They'll probably never open it and never see them. But I know it's there, and it's a matter of pride for me. Put a little bit more thinner on the brush because it's dried out a bit. And scrubble it off on the towel. I don't even know what that word was. Sorry about that. Making up words now. I've just been watching Tony's somebody or other Rossi figure for his Yamaha bike, and he keeps just making up words. So he's got me doing it now. Hi Tony. Right, it's a bit more streaking here. And again, all you're doing is just pulling the paint down and dragging it. If you see me do oil paint streaks, it's very similar in idea, but slightly, well, it's kind of similar in the method. And the more you brush over something, the further away it will fade out. So if I make a streak down here and it's too far, I can just keep brushing it and it will go away. And like I say, you probably won't actually really see this on camera very well. Now this one, I've painted this lip here. I want this to streak upwards because this is where stuff has run down and collected. This colour is kind of like if you park your car under trees. After a while, you get that green streaky crap on your rubber trim on your windows. It's that kind of idea. This is like that green builder, or sometimes if you park under trees a lot, you'll get that green stuff collecting in your tail lights. It's that kind of idea. That went pretty well, that one actually. So you can see I've now got a little bit of a shadow here, and a really subtle shadow along, and just up there. And that's it. We've just done our first layer of streaking. Now again, it's pretty much invisible for the most part. It's really, like I said, super subtle, but your eye may not see it, but it will register the fact that there's some slight darkening there and there's some unevenness to the main colour. So it will spot that there's something there. And if you're getting into advanced weathering like this, a lot of times you are doing things that are so subtle on their own, they're almost invisible, but when you add them to the other things you do afterwards, it just comes together as a whole. So that's what I'm going to go around and do on the rest of the Gundam. I'm going to do it in various places. I'm not exactly sure where yet. I know I'm going to be doing a lot more of the streaking grime on things like these and other parts, so I'm not going to go to town on it. Just in a few places here and there. So let me go and do that. When you do these streaking grimes, or any of these weathering products, these Ammo of MiG weathering products, you have to leave them 24 hours just to fully dry, so then you can go over with the next coat. Like I said, I don't need to varnish between layers here because they're all enamels. So I'm going to get all this done, leave it for 24 hours so it can fully dry, and then we can come in with the next colour. And that's just to make sure that when I do the next streaking coat, the streaking grime, it doesn't interfere with this one if I get some crossing over. So I'll go and finish the rest of this one. We'll leave it 24 hours, and when we come back we shall do the streaking grime, which is exactly the same process, just a different colour. Okay, back in a moment. stage done. You can see here it's all dried now. It's had 24 hours to dry. You can probably see the streaking on the leg a bit better here, around the back. I did the rest of the model as well. I've done the head. It's the first proper look you've had at the head, I think. Kept it quite subtle around the head, just around this panel line here. I went round these panel lines, and it kind of tinted these back panels a bit as well, which is cool, because that just is awesome. Where else did I do? Around the front of the grills here. And that's about it really on the head. I did some to these little bits on the sides, but I might just leave those. Remember, this isn't fully stuck together yet. This is loosely assembled, so I can get the eyes in later. So that's what the head will look like. I'm probably not going to do much more streaking on there because I want to keep the head fairly clean. It's way up at the top, so I don't want that to be super weathered. So we'll put that to one side. I did on the foot as well. As an example on the foot, you can see there's some streaking on the ankle guard here. And around the base of the foot. Now what I tended to do was, you'll see in that last bit, I used various different brushes. I used this kind of, just once it had dried on and I was using the thinner, I used this kind of fuzzy brush. I used my chisel brush like this. And I also found this in my collection, which is a really soft and floppy long brush. And I decided to use that for some of them. So in some places I've got actual streaks, in some places I've got slight fuzzy blurring. It depends what I wanted to come out with, so it's nice and random. So what's the next stage? Well, the next stage is exactly the same, but this time we're going to use streaking grime. This is a darker colour, and what we're going to do is add this to places where we didn't add streaking last time. So for example, I might add it around some of these panel lines, and it's exactly the same technique. Take your streaking grime, give it a darn good shake. Oh, you can actually see I did do some streaking grime on the backpack. If this will come out, and it's a more browny tone, just makes it look a bit dirtier. I didn't really take much of it off on here, so it's quite extreme on the backpack, but I don't mind, it looks good. You can see how it's discoloured some of the metallic chipping that I did, which is quite a nice effect. So yeah, give your streaking grime a darn good shake. That's my shaking my streaking grime noise. Get the lid off. Ew. And exactly the same as before. You can see it's a much browner colour. Now, exactly the same as before. Take your brush and take your streaking grime. Just a little bit, don't need a lot. And just run it along where you want it. So I'm going to put massive amounts on. I want it to be fairly subtle. So I'm going to put some on the insides of these panel lines. I don't want it on both sides, I've decided, for arbitrary reasons that I can't quite place. So put some down here. Oops. We'll have some here. And we shall have some here, there. Do you want it on the inside or the outside? Let's have it on the outside. The reason you need to leave these for 24 hours is just so that when you do this lot of streaking grime, it doesn't actually then affect the stuff that's already just been put on there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put some inside here as well. Now yes, this will discolour it, but then I'll tease it up along the edges and along the sides, because this is going to get quite dark in here anyway. So I'm going to tease it up along the sides. And I might leave a lot of it actually on the flat surface just to give it some colour. So we'll get that in there. Get it on the edges. You can be quite messy, it doesn't, you'd have to be careful with it. Where else do I want some? Have some on the inside of that. Again, notice I'm not being particularly careful, you don't have to be. You can be as subtle or as obvious as you want. You can also paint this in actual streaks, like I do with oil paints. If you want to paint a streak and then just feather it, you can also do that. Okay, right, I'll go on, get on with this. Then we'll leave this to sit for a few minutes. And then we'll do exactly the same again. And streak this off and see what comes out the other side. So, back in a moment. Right, so that's had a few minutes to dry, so let's go in and start doing the streaking. Exactly the same as before, get my fuzzy brush, a little bit of thinner on there, And because I put quite thick lines on here, what I'm going to do is actually just clean them up a little bit and reduce them down slightly. So I'm going to take a little bit of it off. Just go around the edge just to get some of that excess off. I'm going to wipe that off on the towel, and then I'm just going to dab at these parts and tease them out. Just very gently. And that's it. That's the streaking done for this. There's some bits there that I put in, so I'll drag those down a smidge. You can see there now we've got some nice filthy dirty streaks. So I'll go off and do the rest of the gunpla again, and then we'll come back, we'll do the last bit of streaking, which is the engine grime. So activate fast forward cheesy music mode. Right, so there's that leg done. You can see it's come out quite nicely. It'll lighten slightly because as it dries it gets a little bit lighter. Quite proud of this bit, the way it's kept this bit nice and clean. But this bit here, nice and grubby. The streaking grime on top of the streaking grime for DAC has made a darker, even darker brown colour. Oh, I've forgotten one bit. Hang on. I put a little bit here. Now I did have some issues with it. I did find that the streaks I put on there, the lines, are actually a bit too big. So when I was trying to do the streaking, I was just discolouring the whole part, basically, more like a tint. So what I would say is, if like me you're an idiot and you go and put a big fat streak on, like I said before, just dip your brush in first, just trim that down with thinner, so it's a slightly thinner line, and then go in and do your little bits of chipping streaking. I've kind of approached it from terms of I'm not trying to make discrete streaks necessarily. Some of it is just discoloration, like on these parts here. It's got some streaks on the inside that you might be able to see around the edge, but a lot of it is just dirty discoloration, but that's absolutely fine because that's what I'm looking for. I've not been too careful with anything. So that's the leg done, that part. I need to go off and do the rest of it now. So we'll do, I won't do another time lapse because I don't want hundreds and hundreds of time lapses in a video. It just gets a bit boring. Well, I might do. I don't know, actually. I don't know. Do you like time lapse bits that go on for 2 minutes and have just silly music? Or do you not? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. But I'll go off and do the rest of it and we'll see what happens. So, back in a moment. Just wanted to very quickly show you something else. Another way of using the streaking fluid. You've seen me use it for kind of just like shading. You can also use it for actual streaking, like that. And how do you do that? Well, it's kind of exactly the same technique. What you'll do is you'll get your streaking fluid, put it on your part. Now you'll put it as a small dot rather than a line. You see I've put a dot here and a dot here. And all I'll do is I'll take my brush, little tiny bit of thinner, and most of which I've rubbed off on the tissue, and I'm going to almost not touch it, and I'm just going to flick it down a little bit. I'm almost not touching it, I'm touching it with like one bristle. I'm going to flick that down, and this one as well. I found as well it's also easier to try and do it, to try and paint in the direction of streaking, so paint this way rather than painting that way to get the straightest lines. So now I'm going to just rub my brush off. I'm going to backpedal a little bit and just get these a little bit shorter. Rub my brush off again. And now I'm going to do exactly the same. I'm not going to start from where the streak starts because I want to keep it a bit stronger where the streak begins. I'm just going to work my way very, very gently along the streak and between the streaks, just to make sure there's clean space between them. So I can draw that streak out. If it goes a bit wonky, you can just go to either side of it and just straighten it out. So exactly the same way you would do with oil paints almost. And what you'll tend to find is you'll get, more often than not, a nice straight streak if you keep your brush straight, with some fading on either side. That's a bit rubbish, that one, so I'm just going to bring that one down a bit. See how it's basically disappeared? That's fine. I've still got a very faint streak there. And that is how you can also do streaking. So I'll go and get the rest of this finished, and when we come back I shall show you all this bit done, and we shall do the engine grime streaking. So back in a moment. Nom 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 nom. Ooh, jelly baby. Nom 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 nom. Oh, sorry. Got carried away. Hang on. Swigging my coffee to get rid of that. Oh. Good nutrition is a vital part of model making. You can spend a long time at the model making bench to make sure you have lots of liquids and solids. Keep yourself drunk and fed. No, keep yourself hydrated, not drunk. Different thing. Hydrated and fed. Right, enough nonsense. Where are we up to? Ooh, that tasted good. I love jelly beans. So we've got all the streaking done now for those last two parts, with the streaking grime and the streaking grime for DAC. Now we just have to do the last part, which is using engine grime. So I'll just show you what we've done. You can see here here is Anne foot. The streaking grime went on quite nicely. I put it around the bottom of the foot and around the panel lines, a little bit around the ankle guards, and lots on the base of the foot and underneath. So it's toned it down quite nicely and browned it up, ready for weathering later on. I went over the rest of the model as well, not in as many places. I did some on the leg, some at the bottom here, and around some of these panel lines. As you can see, I went round here again, and it's just a nice brown sort of bit of shading and streaking. I kind of varied the technique between actual streaking and just fading it so it looks like an accumulation of dirt. And that's the beauty of these products, because they're enamel and you're taking them off. When you put them on, you can kind of do them however you want. I went to town around these servo things here. It's quite nice and grimy in there. Also inside on the little lip, if you can see that. So you can use them however you want. You can vary how you use them. Use them as intended. You can do whatever you want with them, really. Right, so now we're going to use the engine grime. Now this is a much darker colour. Give it a good shake. This is... How many turns does this need? Blimey out. Am I doing it wrong? Do you want to just... Hello? Oh, there we go. Special. This is a more greyish colour, as you can see. And I bet you've already guessed the technique is going to be exactly the same. However, I'm going to use this a lot less than the other two. The only example given in the book is around the base of the feet and the base of the leg. So I'm going to follow suit, and then I'll probably just put it in a few places. And what I want to suggest with this one is not streaking where something is, as you can see on there, you've got the rust streaks coming down from the foot. Not downward streaking so much. I want to suggest that water has run down or fluids have run down, and then the grime has accumulated at the bottom of wherever it runs to. So it's going to be going upwards that way. I'm going to put a line on and fade it that way. So it's not stuff running down that's leaving a streak from here to there. It's actually something running down that's leaving gunk from here to there, if that makes sense. I know in my head what I'm trying to say. It's just not easy to say it. I've just noticed I've not been putting that in the shot, so oops. Sorry guys. Right. Enough waffle. Let's get this on. Now in the book it shows, in the wonderful book of informations, it shows putting this on quite a lot. So let's just get on with it, shall we? So we're going to put it around the base here. Just going to put it on and be quite generous with it. Again, because it's enamel and we can fade it back, it's not the end of the world if it's on too thick, because you can fade it away with thinners on a brush or just remove it altogether. So we're just going to go and put this on quite generously. And I'll do the same on other parts as well, but I'll just show it here. I'll do a little bit here. Or should I do... Actually, I'll do some in here. Because this is where I want real grime and gunk to be. I like to think of these as some kind of like rotating servo parts, so these are well going to get gunky. Wow, I went all urban then. These are well going to get gunky in it. Wow. Look at me going all street savvy and young. And I'm going to actually get quite generous inside here, because I want this to be like there's stuff going on in there. There's goings on going on. So we'll get some in there. And we've got some on this servo, so we'll, if that's say, if most of the time it's like this, we'll put some down here so we can streak it. Because if you imagine this ankle guard is usually going to be in that kind of position, a lot of the time stuff will run down and accumulate. Now what I'll do is when I fade this away, I'll do more fading at the top here than I will at the bottom, because the idea is that stuff is collected down at the bottom. And the same on this little fin. I'll leave more here, but I'll take more off underneath. I know what I mean. And I'll do a little bit there. Again, I'm not going to do too much, as in too many places. I'm not going to go too crazy. Shall I put any in the ankle guard? Yeah, I'll put a bit. Just a touch. Because ideally, if you're thinking of logically, it would run down off the bottom and go somewhere else. So, I'll leave that to dry for a few minutes. Okay, right, that's at about 10 or 15 minutes to dry, because I got stuck on a phone call. So, exactly the same as before, we're going to take a number of different brushes. I've got my fluffy brush, I've got the chisel edge brush, and I'll see how it goes to see which one I need. A bit of tissue to get my thinners off on, so we're going to go ahead and get some thinners on the brush. And then I'm going to take most of it off on the tissue, which you can't see because it'll kill my white balance, as always. And then we're just going to do some futzing, some fading and fading. And we'll see how this comes out. Now, I'm not really going for streaks here. I'm just going for, well, we'll see what comes out. Doesn't really matter what I'm going for. What I end up with could be something completely different. So we'll just chip away at it. Do it in shot, dear boy. Get a load of that off. And what I find sometimes is if you just go back a little bit on itself, you can kind of work away at it. And it can look a little weird at first, so don't suddenly lose heart that you're just colouring the whole darn thing. Get some more off on the tissue. Swipe away at that just to try and get rid of that build up. Sometimes you're kind of just scraping it off, and sometimes you're blending it, and sometimes it varies. It can be a whole load of different effects that you end up with, so just play with it and see what happens. The worst comes to the worst, you just get it all off with thinners. What I'm hoping to get is something fairly faded and shaded. Fairly. Get a bit more thinners off the brush. Let's try. I'm trying to avoid. I'll blend it so much that I don't get loads of brush marks, basically. I probably will still have some left. Let's try a different brush. This is a dry brush. I've not got anything on this. Might be a bit too. So now I'm just jabbing at it just to try and fade it and blend it a bit. With no thinners, and that does seem to work miracles. You might want the thinners just to reactivate the paint, and then sometimes you can just use a dry brush just to blend it, and that will do me absolutely fine. Now you probably can't see, it doesn't look like it does on screen in reality. It's a lot more shaded and darkened, but I quite like that. It gives it an overall, I think in the book it describes it as a brown aspect. So let me go and do another bit. So I'll get some thinners on the small brush, get most of it off on the tissue. And I found with these, it is a case of just varying what methods you use as you go along, whether you want streaks or shading or fading or however you want it. Now I'm going back on myself here. I'm going to streak it downwards that way a bit. Remember, I've only got a bit of thinner on it, I've not got loads of thinner. And I'm dabbing just to try and break up the edge very lightly. Drag it upwards a bit. Picking at the edge there. I can brush it back on itself just to get rid of that edge, and then do it up again just to streak it a little bit. And then get my dry brush and just dab. And that way I can blend it ever so slightly. So if I wasn't happy with the results, I could get a lot of thinner on the brush and just wipe it all away. But see how, because I've not put any varnish layers between these enamel coats, but because they've all been allowed to dry, the thinners on the first brush haven't removed that streak, which was another coat. And that's why you have to leave these coats to dry for 24 to 48 hours between each one, because otherwise you'll just take off the work you've already done. So I'll drag that up a little bit just to colour up here. So now we have a nice bit of tinting there as well. And it just changes it from that white colour just to this more browny colour. It just makes it look a bit more used and worn. I'm not really going for streaks at this point, I'm going for discolouring. So I shall go and finish off the rest of this foot. I'll probably do some of this on the red as well, especially underneath. Because I mean, this is going to have, I'm probably going to do mud and stuff under here. But I'm going to put some of this on here as well once I've done this bit. And I'll go and add it onto some other parts. The bottoms of the legs, probably the most of it. Where else can I put it? Somewhere on the shield. And maybe just inside, up inside the skirt at the top of the legs, probably, and that might be about it. So let me go and do that, and when we come back, we will either finish this video, show you where we're up to, or we'll do one more little bit. Back in a moment. Right, and so that's all the streaking done. We're going to wrap this episode up now, because it's not gone on long, but the next bits are going to take too long for me to fit into this episode. So we'll keep this episode just as streaking. Now I've been done, I've done the feet, and I focused on the feet, the bottom of the legs, and the sort of knee joint and the ankle joint. So let's have a look. As you can see, here's one of the finished feet. I do love me some Gundam feet. How can you not love Gundam feet? I'm really quite pleased with the way that came out. Let me just put that up. Now I have to apologise for the wobbly camera. I've assembled everything back together again, so I'm having to hold the camera to show it all to you. I love the way the streaks came out on the top of the foot there. And it's not as dark as I thought it would be, but you might not see it on screen, but when you see the whole thing, the feet and bottom of the legs do certainly look kind of greyish, brownish tinged, which is what I was looking for. Which is what you're really looking for. I didn't want to streak it, I wanted to just add that grimy tinge. So pull back a bit, we'll have a look at the legs. Let's have a look. You might not see it on film, but it's darker. I concentrated on this part of the leg with the engine grime, and it's really just that part. I didn't go up onto the knees and stuff. I'm really pleased with the chipping on the knees. The knees, please. I'm really happy with the way this came out. It kind of, to me, has that look of just something that's metal and been painted white, and then the white's flaking away and chipping away, like a piece of old garden furniture or something. It's just got that look to it, and I'm really happy with that. Gundam crotch. Yeah, that's annoying, that, isn't it? Just show some of the chipping. A couple of people asked me to show some of the chipping, so that's why I'm kind of doing this. You see there the subtle streaking underneath. Now, I did say originally, this is the first time I've used these techniques and these products. If you know me in my videos, you know I've done a lot of various weathering techniques. I've done things like gunk washes with oil paints and other things, lots of dry brushing. But this is the first time I've used these MIG products for streaking. And I have to say, so far, I'm really, really impressed with these products. I'm having an absolute whale of a time doing it. And it's dead easy. And it's just looking brilliant. So I am really liking these products, and I can't recommend them enough. So far we've done the paddle line washes and we've done the streaking grimes, and just so far I'd say there's products you definitely want if you want to make weathered models. You can see I did some of the streaking grime. The light's shining off it a bit, but you can see I did some of the streaking grime on the torso. And it's kind of dulled down some of those paint chips quite nicely, which is cool. And the streaking grime I used on the collar here, I didn't use it to streak, I used it to shade round the edges. and it came out really nicely just by dabbing the brush rather than dragging it, and using a dry brush sometimes. It gave this nice shaded effect. And if you've watched this series so far, you'll know I haven't yet done this, but now we have put the eyes in. Look at that, I'm loving that head. The head is pretty much complete. I've been weathering it less the further up the Gundam I go, so the head has got some slight chipping and some slight streaking, just with the streaking ground for DAC. But I kept it simple. But the beauty of these enamel products is that I matte varnished this, well, I gloss varnished it before the panel line washes, and then I matte varnished it using Humbrol 49 matte, and now I'm doing these enamel streaks and other things I'm going to do, and they all need a matte surface. Apart from the panel line wash, they all need a matte surface. But they're coming out beautifully matte. They're drying not shiny, so it means theoretically if this is just going to be a display piece and never really handled, I don't need to do another matte varnish coat, which means I can keep things like the eyes, I can put them in now because I'm not going to have to varnish this. If I had to matte varnish this again, I'd have to take the eyes out, and I'd have to keep the I'll show you on the back, but the joints for the arms and the knees would have to be removed, so I didn't get them matte varnished because they need to be shiny. So that's one other thing with these products, you don't need to do a final matte varnish unless you're going to be handling the model. I mean, this is going to be a display model, so if I ever do need to handle it, say to clean it or dust it or move it, I'll just make sure I wear gloves. But I've been handling this so far with gloves and none of this paint has come off. So yeah, and I'll quickly show you the back. Let me just adjust the focusings. I'll show you the back and then we'll wrap this up because you haven't seen much of the back. What have we got? We've got the backpack with its metallic chipping, and again this was matte varnished after I painted the metallic chipping with, I can't remember which colour it was now, bright steel I think. I'll put a little, where is it? There it is. No, I can't remember. I'll put a little caption up here now to say which one I used. That was matte varnished and yet it's still kind of shiny, so that's cool. I did some work on the inside of the shield that you haven't seen much of yet. I kept the gunmetal part shiny and the white parts are matte, again because I don't have to do any more varnish on this now. Things like this part of the arm here and this part of the shield, I don't need to worry about masking them off ever again because I don't need to varnish this. Certainly a lot easier than the way I used to do it. And then you've got Gundam butt, sorry, and then the back of the legs. And you've not really seen the back of the knees in situ, but that's the back of the back of the knees. And these are clean now, but we'll be doing some weathering on these. And then you've got the back of the legs. It's all looking rather spanky. So that's going to do it for this time. What we will do is on the next one, we shall start with some filters. And again, like this one, I don't know how long these processes are going to take. So I'm not going to say exactly what's going to be in the next episode because I don't know how much of it I can get in. So I know we need to cover filters. We need to cover the ammo weathering powders, which we're going to use on the shiny interior leg and arm parts. We also have to cover, what else do we have to cover? I can't remember. There's other things we need to do anyway. There's lots more things to do yet. So we're not finished yet and there's still much more to do. But because I don't need to varnish this again, I can kind of keep it built now. I haven't put the hands on because I've got to get those weathered. So I've left those off for now. Thank you very much for watching. As always, go and see my friends at emodels.co.uk. It's what I think is the best model store in the UK. It's such a massive stock of everything you need. If there's something there that you can't find, you don't need it. Also go along to their Facebook page, facebook.com/emodels.ltd. It's a great little community, great people on there. You can show off your work, post up pictures of your stuff, or give feedback on other people when they get their pictures up on there. And eModels will also post up, you know, what's coming into stock, what's available, special offers, things like that. So stay tuned to their Facebook page. It's a nice community. And last of all, as always, go and check my stuff out, www.modelmaking.guru, or I'm on Facebook at facebook.com/modelmakingguru. I post up my stuff, builds, commission builds, things like that. I've also got a YouTube channel, which you'll know anyway, and I'll post up on there. So let me stop waffling now. I shall leave you with the lovely, lovely face of RX-78-2. And before you ask, no, there's no lighting in this kit. It's just the light reflecting off his eyes because they do them in such a brilliant way. I shall leave you with the Grandaddy Gundam's face, and we shall see you next time when we shall get all filtery and powdery, and we'll see what happens. So until next time, adios amoebas.